Hey, you know what would make your customer service help desk way better? Dumping it and then switching to intercom. But you're not quite ready to make that change. We get it. That's why Fin, the world's leading AI customer service agent, is now available on every help desk. Fin can instantly resolve up to 80% of your tickets, which makes your customers happier and gets you off the customer service rep hiring treadmill. Fin by Intercom, the leading customer service AI agent, now available on every help desk.
7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Sunday 7. On today's episode of the award-winning Sunday 7, we look deep into your eyes. We learn about breakthroughs in gene therapy, we hear how Nokia are planning to put 4G on the moon, and why Scotland could be seeing wolves back in the Highlands. Plus, Will Guyatt, the Smart 7's resident tech guru, takes a look at the new iPhone and investigates Mark Zuckerberg's very, very long wire. If you're enjoying our episodes, please do like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We're here 7 days a week at 7 a.m. with the 7 biggest stories on the Smart 7. Before we get started though, it was on this day in 1997, the world saw the first ever successful cloning of an adult mammal as we met Dolly the sheep. Biologist Keith Campbell and a team of scientists at the Roslin Institute in Edinburgh were responsible for the breakthrough, and tests on Dolly's DNA proved she was an exact clone. She lived until Valentine's Day 2003. This week has seen some dramatic breakthroughs when it comes to treating the human eye and addressing blindness. Researchers have been working on using gene therapy to replace faulty cells in the human eye and hopefully enable sight to return. In the UK, 4 toddlers who've been legally blind from birth received gene therapy treatments at Moorfield Eye Hospital in London and have reported life-changing improvements. There are similar stories from Ireland, where Trinity College in Dublin's been leading the way on gene therapy research, and Sligo man Stuart Haxell spoke to RTE this week about how this therapy has transformed his sight.
It is absolutely amazing. It's something that I never thought would ever be possible, to be honest. Before I went through and found out about this gene treatment, I had given no thought to any sort of cure to my sight loss at all. I just wanted to find out what type of genetic condition I actually did have. So to find out that my genetic condition was compatible with this gene treatment, absolutely inconceivable that anything like this could happen.
Professor David Keegan's a retinal specialist at the Mater Hospital in Dublin and says the procedure, which sees a virus injected to essentially reboot the failing cells, is a complicated operation. Not kidding.
We've got to detach the retina to deliver this therapy. So while it's a fairly routine operation, 90% of it, we now have to inject this fluid that's got the virus, that's got the new gene in it underneath the retina, so we've got to detach it, so make sure we've done no harm first. So once we've confirmed that, then the next piece is, has Stuart got any function back? And because he's had such poor function for a long time, that was a little uncertain. So it was great for Stuart and for his mum. That was a bit emotional, Stuart, I think, in the room that day. But Stuart's got to get on with his rehabilitation, and then we've got to get on with minding Stuart's eye and make sure that's maintained.
That wasn't the only dramatic surgical intervention when it came to eyes this week, as doctors at Newcastle's Royal Victoria Infirmary have managed to save the eye of a man who was splashed with battery acid during a robbery. Paul Laskey intervened to save his son during the robbery and had corrosive liquid squirted into his eye, which destroyed the inner and outer layers of his cornea. He's had multiple operations, and now doctors have used material from a donated placenta to create amnio swatches that have helped to heal the damaged eye.
It's unbelievable what they do. The fact that it's waste. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, once a baby's born, it's no good at anything. They've designed something where they can use it to create some good.
Professor Francisco Figeuiredo is the consultant ophthalmologist at the Newcastle Eye Centre, and he's hopeful that gene therapy may now be possible to restore Paul's sight.
One placenta can generate up to 100 small pieces of membrane, then one placenta can treat 100 people.
It's been another pretty busy week in the world of tech, with a new release from Apple, some very interesting developments from Microsoft, and, well, Mark Zuckerberg's very, very long wire quiet at the back. And there's only one man we trust to untangle another man's wire. Yep, stay quiet. And that's the Smart 7's tech guru, Will Guyatt. How you doing, Will? I'm struggling with this one. How long's Mark Zuckerberg's wire?
So, hear me out on this one. The tech bros of Silicon Valley have replaced their rocket fascination with giant underwater cables, and the fully maggoed up Mark Zuckerberg has gone straight in with some considerable length. He's just ordered the world's largest cable, some 50,000 kilometres or 31,000 miles long, a bit bigger than that tatty old USB charger cable you've got for your phone.
So what's the point of this Project Waterworth then? Why does it need to be so long?
Project Waterworth is all about providing eye-wateringly quick internet connectivity between 5 major continents and supporting Meta's efforts to grow its AI projects. This is the idea that Meta will be able to share its work at high speeds between the US, India, South Africa and Brazil across this new cable. They also reckon the project will accelerate tech progress in general on each continent, allowing high-speed digital communications, video, online transactions and fast transfer of data. Apparently, it's going to cost around $8 billion to deliver this, so Mark Zuckerberg clearly believes that connectivity is the future for his business. And just wait, I reckon Elon will be going for a 100,000 kilometre cable soon. He'll probably wrap it around the world twice.
Okay, let's talk Apple now. What was it they released this week?
It's probably the worst kept secret of an Apple launch for a long time, but they revealed the iPhone 16e. It's the cheapest model in the range, and it replaces both the iPhone SE from 2022 and also the iPhone 14.
It's a bit of an odd time to release a new phone, isn't it, all on its own? What makes this one so special?
Apple don't typically launch phones around this time of the year, but it's pretty much a mid-year refresh, a little boost for the iPhone range. It's actually fairly decent. It's got a 6.1-inch screen, which is a jump from the 4.7-inch screen on the SE that it replaced, and it's got a single but still pretty good 48-megapixel camera. And even though it's the cheapest phone in their range, it's Apple Intelligence enabled, which will allow you to use Apple's growing suite of AI tools, which as of now are good, but still aren't as good as Google Gemini's competitive set. Perhaps the most exciting thing about this phone for a nerd like me, it's the first ever Apple phone with their own 5G modem chip inside. That's the thing that connects it to mobile networks. Now, this was one of the final pieces in a puzzle for Apple. They've been changing all of the silicon in these devices over the last few years, and this is the first time they've made their own modem chip. Now, early reviews suggest it's stretched battery life on devices even longer. So, when you come to an iPhone 17 in September, battery life could be significantly improved.
Okay, how much did it cost and does it get the will thumbs up?
The cheapest iPhone 16 comes in at £599 in the UK for the 128GB model and up to £899 for the 512GB model. Now, it offers a significant bump in performance from the most recent budget iPhone, but is over £100 more expensive than the iPhone SE. I'm still giving it 2 thumbs up, but there are cheaper and better phones available in the Android category if you don't want to be on an iPhone.
And in a week of pretty big tech, big stories, this one seems pretty significant. Tell me what's going on with Microsoft and topological qubits.
Quantum computing is probably a bigger buzzword than AI in many circles now, and it's the idea that it will transform computing. Effectively, computing and calculations on computers will be done in a very different way. Imagine right now, a computer is a light switch on and off, whereas quantum computing is just like a dimmer switch. Microsoft claim the leap they've made is so big, effective quantum computing, which was predicted to be decades away, now may be possible in just a couple of years. Going back to my light switch dimmer principle, traditional computers operate on bits of information and quantum computers run on something called qubits. Now, qubits can be made from lots of different things, and companies have seen success by stringing different types of qubits together to make these quantum computers. The biggest challenge has been that these computers aren't yet usable for the high-tech applications they promise. The tiniest of changes in the surrounding environment can cause these qubits to make huge errors in calculations. It's hard to explain, but this new idea of topological qubits can be performed with greater speed and accuracy than traditional qubits, and they've had to make a new kind of material in order to make this possible. The theory is that basing quantum computers on so-called topological qubits would be a promising path to scaled, low-error quantum computing. In short, making sure this stuff works properly and is ready for prime time. With other tech companies, including Google, investing billions in the idea of quantum computing, the race is heating up.
Well, okay, so it could change the face of computing, but I guess it's not that simple, is it?
Yeah, absolutely, because quantum computers will process massive amounts of data at the same time. That's ways that would revolutionise fields like science, medicine, energy, and of course, artificial intelligence. But right now, it's just too error-laden to be successful, but it's improving with every move. And tech companies with really deep pockets are all now battling to have a role in the quantum computing revolution. It will change the world, but it will take some time.
Finally, let's talk about asteroids. There's lots of excitement about the snappily named 2024 YR4 and its potential path to Earth. Have we got to get Bruce Willis back in a spacesuit?
The odds of this asteroid hitting the Earth seem to be in the papers every day over the last week, with the numbers and odds seemingly changing more than those Ray Winston in-game football betting ads. At the start of the week, asteroid YR4 had just a chance of 1 in 82 of hitting Earth. We were then told it had rocketed to a high of 1 in 32. And then at the end of the week, it went back down again to a 1 in 67 chance. So it looks as though we might not need Bruce Willis after all.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, we ask what led to this week's Toronto plane crash and why Scotland may let the wolves loose. Ow! Donald Trump spent the last 4 weeks or so causing absolute chaos across the US government and in Ukraine and Gaza. He set Elon Musk loose with Doge in search of savings and made thousands of federal employees redundant. The list of departments and services he's cut back is growing by the day, but it's going to take time before the impact of those cuts become clear. But there's one area where cutbacks and interference appear to be causing serious issues already, and that's in the skies above America. This week saw at least 2 more dramatic plane crashes, with a Delta flight from Minneapolis bursting into flames and flipping over as it came to land at Toronto's Pearson Airport. Miraculously, all 75 passengers and crew were evacuated safely. An ABC News aviation consultant, retired Colonel Steve Ganyard, says it's an unusual one and that there are a number of points the investigation are going to need to consider.
Something happened in those last 10 or 20 feet where a big rate of descent developed for some reason. Could have been a couple of factors. Could have been pilot error. Maybe the crew didn't flare the airplane, pull back on the stick and cushion the landing. It could have been wind shear. Or maybe they just touched down hard and there was some sort of a mechanical failure or a defect in the landing gear. But at that point, it's that 20 feet above the runway where this mishap began to occur.
PBS News aviation correspondent Miles O'Brien says the number of crashes in recent weeks isn't coincidental and that this crisis may have been coming for a while.
You have to ask big questions about complacency in the system. Has the system been blinking red, and have we been listening to those warning signs? We've been talking a lot about near misses, near collisions in the United States for quite some time. And did we really address the fundamental issues? Perhaps not. That helicopter path in Washington at 200 feet below a final approach path to Reagan National Airport at 325 feet was an accident waiting to happen, and that did not get addressed. So aviation is not forgiving of complacency.
There was good news for the NHS this week as the Labour government announced that it's already hit its target of 2 million additional appointments across the health service. However, there's also worrying news about cancer treatments and whether or not patients are getting the best option for their diagnosis. The National Cancer Audit Collaborating Centre, or NatCan, says there are issues in particular with the treatment of prostate, colon and kidney cancers. They've carried out an audit across England and Wales, which has shown some worrying statistics, with 30% of patients with high-risk prostate cancer not getting curative treatment, while 35% of stage 3 colon cancer patients don't get chemotherapy within 3 months of surgery. Professor Peter Johnson is the National Clinical Director for Cancer, and he told Radio 4 the NHS teams will use the results of the audit to tackle the quality and consistency of treatment.
We do know that the distribution, for example, of oncologists across the country has varied quite a lot historically. We've done an enormous amount to increase the number of cancer specialists in training over the last few years to deal with those differences. So there are some issues where we know that we need to generate more capacity, and there are some hospitals that particularly struggle with having enough oncologists, having enough specialist nurses and so forth. But generally speaking, it is more complicated than that. And what this audit gives us the opportunity to do is to really dig into what the underlying causes are and make sure that we're working with the commissioners, we're working with the cancer alliances to fix that.
Still to come on the Sunday 7, meet your new robot wife, hello, and Nokia takes 4G to the moon.
Right after this.
Hey, you know what would make your customer service help desk way better? Dumping it and then switching to intercom. But you're not quite ready to make that change. We get it. That's why Finn, the world's leading AI customer service agent, is now available on every help desk. Finn can instantly resolve up to 80% of your tickets, which makes your customers happier and gets you off the customer service rep hiring treadmill. Finn by Intercon, the leading customer service AI agent, now available on every help desk.
Welcome back.
We're all expecting the robots to turn up and take over any day now, aren't we? Whether it's AI-powered chatbots or physical robots who'll do tasks and make our lives easier. And it's definitely starting to happen with a new project in Italy called Concert, introducing a complex robot designed to help with construction. And it's been cleverly designed as a modular device, so it's flexible and able to work across different parts of a building project. Nikolaos Tsagarakis has a job title that must be a nightmare to fit on a business card. He's head of the Humanoids and human-centred Megatronics Robotics lab at the Italian Institute of Technology. Need a small font. He says while the robot's currently working with humans, the hope is one day it'll be able to operate autonomously.
It can be used as a collaborative platform, executing a physical demanding and repetitive construction tasks together with the human operators, but at the same time offers autonomous functionalities in which the platform can work alone inside the construction site with a minimal human supervision. In order to ensure the safety of the system, we have integrated a number of different sensors in the platform, starting from the vision, 3D lidars and cameras, as well as ultrasonic sensors are used in order to detect the presence and the approaching of the human operators that maybe are working or moving close to the platform.
Placing complex robots in real-life environments isn't a straightforward task, as circumstances can shift rapidly, and the team are building in AI and machine learning so that the robot can cope with a variety of situations. And in the States, robots are taking a slightly different path, as a new humanoid one called Aria hits the market. Its purpose is to help combat loneliness, and it's packed full of artificial intelligence, along with hand gestures and facial expressions that make her look realistic while she carries out meaningful conversations. Matt McMullen is the founder of Robotics, the company behind Aria, and he says her purpose is socially significant.
There is definitely an epidemic in the world today with loneliness. No one can deny that. I look at this as a temporary way to give someone a means of feeling something that resembles a relationship without the risk. Imagine someone who's been through several traumatic relationships where their partner basically stabbed them in the back. This gives them an alternative.
There's plenty of talk about Mars these days, particularly from Elon Musk and his pals, but NASA remains committed to Project Artemis, which will see manned moon landings resume. And there's an ambitious plan for a significant communications update for our old lunar buddy, as Nokia plans to launch a 4G network up there. The company making it possible is Intuitive Machines, who recently managed to place the first commercial lander on the moon, although it wasn't a total success. Over the next few weeks, they're launching a mission which will see a lander and rover on the moon's surface as they search for ice at the southern pole, and they then plan to launch a radiation-hardened satellite into a lunar orbit. Thierry Klein is president of Nokia Bell's Lab Solution Research, which has been working on the project for NASA since 2020. Take it away, Thierry.
Deploying this network on the moon for us looked really like an extreme version of an enterprise network. If you think about a mine in Australia or a wind farm or a remote oil rig, and you want to provide a network in that enterprise environment, the applications and the use case from a communication perspective are very, very similar to what we envision you would need on the moon. It just happens to be very far, it happens to be a very harsh environment, but it's basically what we do every day, but the extreme version of it. We're not doing this as a hobby project. We think we learned a lot on the technology, and we improve the technology that will also be beneficial on Earth. I touched on a couple of examples of how it's important to miniaturize networks from a size, weight, and power. I think that's also beneficial if you deploy networks on a remote oil rig. If you can miniaturize your network, size, weight, and power will always be beneficial. This network on the moon has to be self-deploying, self-configuring, because astronauts don't have time to be a telecom network operator. So this network will really push the boundary of autonomy, self-configuring, self-deploying, self-healing. Those aspects will be important when you go back to terrestrial networks in enterprise environments, where you don't want the enterprise customer to spend a lot of time configuring networks. You want to really drop and forget your network in, if it's an oil rig or a remote wind farm or a mine in Australia.
Last week we heard about the positive effect that wild beavers can have on the landscape and calls for the government to speed up the process of approval for adding more colonies to wetland areas. This week researchers are suggesting that the government should consider reintroducing wolves to the Highlands to help with the climate crisis. The issue is Scotland's native red deer population, who munch their way through tree saplings, which means up to 1 million tonnes of extra carbon could be floating around. Dominic Spracklin is Professor of Biosphere-Atmosphere Interactions at the University of Leeds, and he told Channel 4 that the fact that red deer don't have a natural predator has seen their population expand dramatically. He says you need about 167 wolves to make a big difference.
We wanted our work to sort of show this positive ecological benefit that wolves could bring and sort of show the other side of the story. We hear a lot of scare stories about wolves, a lot of negative stories about wolves, but we wanted to show that strong ecological benefit that wolves could bring back to our environment to help us address the biodiversity crisis and the climate emergency. And that 1 million tonnes of CO2 per year, we also wanted to put a financial value on that. That's about £30 million per year that could come into rural communities in and around an area where wolves were potentially reintroduced.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris.
Dear old work platform, it's not you, it's us. Actually, it is you. Endless onboarding? Constant IT bottlenecks? We've had enough. We need a platform that just gets us. And to be honest, we've met someone new. They're called Monday.com, and it was love at first onboarding. Their beautiful dashboards, their customizable workflows got us floating on a digital Cloud 9. So no hard feelings, but we're moving on. Monday.com, the first work platform you'll love to use.